Have you ever heard a photographer say, "There are no rules in photography"? Some photographers think that the rules are restrictive, whilst others embrace them completely. But what if those rules weren't created by us? What if they're hardwired into our minds? Let's get into it. So to go forward with this video, we kind of need to go back. We need to understand that the rules of composition predate photography by millennia. They weren't created by photographers. They were created by architects and artists hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. Renaissance painters such as Michelangelo used the golden ratio and rules of thirds in paintings hundreds of years ago. The Parthenon in Athens is designed using proportions that adhere to the golden ratio. That's thousands of years old. These compositional principles show up in multiple cultures across multiple centuries, including cultures that have never even had contact with each other. So how did we define them? The simple fact is, we didn't. For you to understand these compositional rules, we need to understand that they don't come from us, they come from nature. They come from the way that we perceive the world around us, the natural shapes and forms of the environment that we are in. Our minds are hardwired to see these. We are more in tune when we see these shapes, patterns and forms than when we don't. They are literally everywhere in nature. There's even some mathematics to it. It's called the Fibonacci ratio, and that ratio is 1.618 to 1. Now that ratio might sound like mumbo jumbo to many, including myself. However, it is found pretty much everywhere in the natural world. It's found in the spiral of seashells. It's found in the forms of waves, even in the shapes of galaxies. When we overlay this golden ratio to our images, we create a natural path for the eye to be led through the image. It works in an image because it works in nature. It's the way our eye is led through a scene in a natural progression. Landscapes have natural curving leading lines that will take the eye through the image, all the way from the foreground to the background through to a subject. Close-ups of leaves and pine cones all have this golden ratio built into them. It's an obscure number, but it's everywhere. Another of nature's visual stimuli is symmetry. And again, symmetry is around us in nature everywhere. The perfect symmetry of leaves and snowflakes, of insects and butterflies. They are all perfectly symmetrical, and we are attracted to them because of that symmetry. They make us feel relaxed and tranquil. And that translates into our photographic compositions. An image with symmetry, that makes us feel very calm. It makes us feel that everything is in order with the world. This image here, for example, you have the almost perfect symmetry of the bridge and its reflection in the water, with the natural background of trees also reflecting in that water. There is a perfect symmetry to this image. Leading lines, as we've mentioned, don't just exist in the man-made, they are all around us in nature. Rivers and streams are natural curving leading lines that will take our eyes through to a subject matter. Tree lines or rows of crops also bring our eye to the subject. Mountain ridges, valleys and coastlines are another example of this. So if these rules of composition are not actually created by us, and they are actually formed in nature and hardwired into our brains, why are we so resistant to them? Photographers and other creative people find rules and regulations limiting. I hate rules and regulations. It's why I work for myself as a photographer. We don't want to be micromanaged in our work and told how we should see things. The word rules in itself triggers a pushback. It sounds rigid, like you're either right or wrong. As photography is subjective, there is no right or wrong in it. That makes it difficult for us to understand that there might be rules and ways of doing things that we have to adhere to make our images work. But the way to think of it is not as rules or restrictions, but as tools. They are guidelines that allow us to analyse a scene in front of us and work out how it will look its best by moving around and fitting it to a beautiful composition. It gives beginners a foundation to their photography. It gives experienced photographers a framework, a visual language which allows them to communicate their work with other people. Some people tend to misunderstand what these rules, these guidelines of composition are all about. They kind of reject them straight away. And this is the negativity that you see when you talk about rules, guidelines of composition, this resistance to it. There's other people that feel that if you pigeonhole yourself into a compositional rule, you're making your images less creative, less about you. But that's completely wrong. If you use these rules and guidelines in your photography, you're expressing yourself. The way you can use these rules is infinite. It doesn't stilt your creativity at all. True creative freedom is not about doing exactly what you want to do. It's about fitting your work into the compositional guidelines and making a visual statement that conveys emotion to a person. Now, many photographers will say they never adhere to the rules of composition. They simply break them. But you can't break those rules if you don't understand them in the first place. To break a rule of composition, you need intention and understanding of the rule that you're actually breaking. Once you understand that, you can convey other emotions in your images. By taking an image that jumps out of any of the compositional rules, you can create an emotion, a jarring tension within a viewer. Things like centering a subject or throwing a symmetry off balance invoke this tension, this discomfort within a viewer. But it only really works if it's deliberate. You would have to have seen that rule of third or that symmetry before you actually decide deliberately to break it. This image works. It's not particularly jarring, but it does break the rules of composition. There are no rules of thirds. The sun is perfectly centered. You've got a juxtaposition between man-made and nature, which is really quite jarring. And yet, as a whole, the image works really well. The eye is still drawn in through those binocular eyepieces out towards that setting sun, despite the fact that it's actually in the center of the image. Breaking compositional rules requires intent, and intent requires understanding. And that's vital. You need to know the grammar before you can write the poetry. So as I've said, some photographers claim that there are no rules to photography. But if you see them as rules, then you will always see them as shackles to your creativity. Don't see them as rules, see them as guidelines. They are the natural way that we interact with the world. We can use that hardwired nature in our minds to bring us beautiful images that really jump out and have fantastic composition that people who don't understand photography will just say, wow, that looks absolutely beautiful. But we need to work with these rules, not be bound by them. You need to understand them, study them, shoot them, and then go out and break them. So I'm sure, like me, you have compositional rules that you really favour, some compositional rules that you try to avoid, and I'm sure that you try to break some compositional rules. Let me know in the comments below which compositional rules you love, you hate, and the ones that you break. I'd love to hear your take on it. And have a look back through your own images and see how your understanding of composition has really progressed as you've progressed as a photographer. I know when I look back at my early images, there's one or two that you think, yeah, that's quite good, but many are just like, there's not really any great composition there. As I've moved on, I find that a lot higher a percentage of my images are much stronger compositionally. And amongst them, there are images that are deliberately breaking the rules of composition as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Composition is such an important subject, and it's one that I feel is perhaps kind of ignored a lot. We tend to overcompensate in editing these days in order to make an image more striking. And a striking image might get lots of likes, shares and comments, but it's not a great image unless it has composition to it, whether intended or broken. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a like would be fantastic, a sub would be even better, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.